Okay. I've done a video like this before, but I was using very fine yarn and 2mm needles, and I watched it the other day and I realised that it wasn't really that clear. So today I'm using 4mm needles. I'm using 2 strands of Drops alpaca, which is the best alpaca I've come across. And this is the second sweater I've made using the yarn. And I'm using Lantern Moon ebony interchangeable needles, which are also lovely. However, I'm going to show you first of all how I used to knit until I was able to teach myself to knit a different way. And this is the way I see a lot of people do knit. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad way to knit or is the wrong way to knit. Whatever produces good knitting for you and whatever you enjoy, that's fine. But because of my disease, I had to stop hand knitting, and basically because of the movement, but particularly the way it affected my shoulders. And I taught myself to knit like this. Now see, my thumb is here, it's underneath the knitting. The needle is resting in the crook between my thumb and my index finger. I've got my yarn tensioned like this. I'm not sure if I do it exactly the same way each time, it really doesn't matter, as long as it's tensioned. And I'm using my index finger only to do this movement, and you'll notice that my thumb moves because my hand sort of splays outwards as I do this. The most importantly is when I come to do the purl stitch, all I do is I move the yarn round and the needle goes just that side instead of the other side. And not only does this make purling really easy, but it also means that my purl stitches and my knit stitches give me the same tension, the same gauge. It's also much more economical in movement. It doesn't hurt me, and I can go really quite quickly, which I shall try and knit at my normal pace now. And as you know, as usual, when you're doing something, it never quite goes right if you're showing somebody else. And as you can see, when you're using 2 ends of yarn, you really have to be careful that you get both when you knit. Now you'll notice that my index finger on my left hand is moving as if to do something to the right hand needle. Well, it used to do it all the time because I was in the habit of doing this. Can you see? I'm using my index finger on the left hand to push my needle backwards. Well, of course, that eventually was painful, particularly as I do an awful lot of knitting with very small diameter needles. And when I was doing a pair of socks using 1.5mm needles, I was really getting a very sore fingertip, in fact a raw hole in the tip of the finger. And it's really just a habit. It's not necessary to do, as you can see. I'm not doing so now, but the finger still moves because it's used to doing it. And even with basket weave, you have to be careful. Despite the fact that it's a simple 4x4 pattern, count in your mind as you're doing it, because if you're anything like me, you'll forget and you'll either just carry on or you'll mess it up somehow. Anyhow, I find this a much better way to knit, and it works with whatever I'm doing. It doesn't work so well with colour work. That's a completely different thing altogether, and I use the Philosopher's Wool method, which you can find on YouTube or on their website, I can't remember which. So I'm just slowing down again so that you can see what it is I'm doing. Now for the purl, through there, changed for the knit, Okay, well, I don't think there's anything else I can actually show you. I'm sure you know how to knit a sweater in the round. That there just shows where I began. Okay, thank you for watching.